Kevin had been backed into a corner by Penny's accusations, so he finally told her why he'd taken her phone. Mike couldn't figure out how Kevin knew about his plan to get her to pay for the dinner at the Whistler Hotel's VIP room. But Meriwether had managed to let everyone know that Kevin had been in prison, so the situation was looking pretty bad for Kevin.
"Didn't I just say that you wouldn't come up with a decent excuse? After all, do I look like someone who wouldn't have enough money to pay a bill?"
Mike bragged to everyone. "Well, you should know better than anyone else," Kevin replied calmly.
"What do you mean by that? Do you want to get your kicked?"
Mike shouted as his temper flared. He started to roll up his sleeves and walk over toward Kevin like he was ready for a fight. Just then, everyone heard the sound of footsteps coming down the hall toward the classroom. Professor Murdoch walked in carrying a book and asked them, "Why is everyone so lively today? It's almost time for class to start, so let's all take our seats."
"You got here just in time, Professor Murdoch. Kevin stole Penny's phone yesterday, but he's trying to tell us that he just found it at the Whistler Hotel,"
Mike said very sanctimoniously. "Mike, that's nothing to be joking about. You know that this school doesn't tolerate that kind of behavior, but I believe that Kevin would never do something like that," Professor Murdoch told them as she placed the book on her desk. "Now everyone go back to your seats. I have something exciting to tell you." In fact, if this had happened the day before, Professor Murdoch might have believed it. But now she knew more about Kevin and what he was capable of doing. If he was already trained as an apothecary at such a young age, there was no telling how high he could climb. She hadn't met a student with this much potential in years. So she was considering taking Kevin under her wing to train him herself. But she was worried that Kevin's classmates would tick him off and might even attack him. With his abilities, Professor Murdoch was probably the only person in the class who had a chance of stopping him. After everyone had returned to their seats, Professor Murdoch continued. "As you probably recall, there was serious flooding in our state a while back, and a lot of the victims are still in need of assistance. Our school has always believed in helping the less fortunate. So last night, the administration decided to organize a fundraising event with each class forming a team. There's no limit on the amount that you can donate," Professor Murdoch explained. Then she got to the incentive. Whichever class has the most donations will receive a generous reward from the school. As her voice fell, the entire classroom went wild.
"What kind of reward do you think they'll give us?"
one of them asked.
"Whatever it is, it has to be fantastic,"
replied another. They wondered if the school might even give the winners some kind of advanced herbal medicine to help increase their intelligence. Professor Murdoch had already written the word fundraiser on the board. Then she wrote down a code for them to use. Considering that a lot of you don't carry much cash around, the school arranged for online donations. You can transfer the funds directly from your bank account. The students all started pulling out their phones. They were all from rich families and could afford to donate at least $25,000. A few of them even donated more than that. Just to show off, Mike immediately donated $60,000.
"Did you see that, Kevin? You still think I don't have any money? How could someone who's short on cash donate 60 grand?
Mike bragged so that everyone could hear him.
"Mike's a great guy, and I saw Kevin steal Penny's phone with my own eyes."
Lionel stood up and started jeering.
"Professor Murdoch, I think we should report this to the administration. Someone like Kevin isn't fit to be in this school,"
Luther said disdainfully. Professor Murdoch's expression turned sour when she heard that. "Kevin, did you really steal Penny's phone?" No matter how much potential she saw in Kevin, the professor couldn't let him get away with something like stealing. He'd have to be punished. For one thing, they couldn't afford to share their secrets with someone who might use them maliciously. That would be disastrous.
"Don't even bother to ask him about it. The best way to deal with Kevin is to have him expelled so he won't embarrass us,"
Mike said very seriously. The rest of the students nodded in agreement. "Kevin, it seems like I've misjudged you," Professor Murdoch said sadly. She was already in a bad mood today. She didn't know why, but she woke up feeling even weaker than the night before. "Professor Murdoch, could you please return my phone to me?" Kevin asked her calmly as he walked up to the podium. "I want to make a donation too." His words immediately brought laughter from the room. They all started to jeer at him. How could someone who's so hard up that they need to steal a phone make any kind of donation? "Why don't you let him have it, Professor? Let's see how much money this can donate," one of them urged her. She took a long look at Kevin and then took his phone out of her briefcase, saying, "I'll return it to you, but you have to listen to me carefully. First of all, from now on, as long as you're in class, you can't take your phone out. If I catch you doing it again, you'll never get it back." Then she added, "Second, from now on, you have to be on your best behavior in school. If you get in any more trouble, I'll have no problem having the police handle it. Just because you're not as fortunate as your classmates doesn't mean you can steal from them." Kevin didn't say anything. He just entered the fundraising information into his phone and returned to his seat. Professor Murdoch also took out her phone and went to the donation website. Their class had donated close to $2.5 million, which pleased her to no end. "I may not be too enthusiastic about some of this job, but with a little training I'll be able to achieve greater things in the future," Professor Murdoch thought to herself. Suddenly, one of the students shouted, "Quick, take a look at the donation website." This immediately got everyone's attention. They all pulled out their phones to see. There was utter silence in the room. They could all see that someone had just donated $500,000. And the name next to the donation was Kevin. Penny suddenly raised her head to look at Kevin. Why would someone who could afford to donate $500,000 steal a phone? Did I really misunderstand him? Penny wondered. She felt a little guilty. Luther and Lionel almost fell out of their seats. Nobody could believe it, but they had the proof right there. Kevin walked over to Mike and said, "You said I was so poor I had to steal a phone? Then tell me how many phones you could buy for $500,000. He said this loud enough so everyone in the class could clearly hear him. Mike suddenly got flustered. "What is there for you to be proud of when you're just spending your wife's money? Anyway, my father's the one who gave me my money, and I won't get scolded when I get home." Then Mike pulled out his phone and donated $500,000 to the fundraiser. Yesterday at night, he begged his father to give him more money for his expenses. He never knew that the money would be spent to save his reputation. He'd already spent $360,000 for dinner the night before, and now he was donating another $500,000. He hardly had anything left in his account. The students all saw Mike's name pop up on the fundraiser website, and they were really impressed. Mike relished in their praise. He looked at Kevin with a self-satisfied smirk and boasted, "Let's see if you can match that with your wife's money." Kevin's classmates started to whisper to each other. They didn't realize that he'd been spending his wife's money. The Jones family would really be ticked at him for doing that. While they were all processing this new information, some of them noticed that Kevin seemed really calm. But Mike was starting to look very upset. "Wow, Mike, it looks like you're really rich. Are you sure you are in the mood to compete with me?" Kevin shot back. Then he took out his phone and donated $1 million to the fundraiser. Everyone checked their phones and saw that Kevin had just donated $1 million more. They couldn't believe their eyes, and some of them started to get a very different opinion of Kevin. "Did this guy really steal his wife's card?" Mike gulped. He didn't have enough money left in his account to compete with Kevin. "Aren't you going to match my donation, Mike? Remember, it's for the disaster victims." Kevin teased him as he added another $500,000. The room fell quiet again. They all looked at Mike to see what he was going to do, but it was obvious that he was very upset. Mike opened his mouth to speak, but he choked on his words. His father had already told him not to ask him for any more money until next year. If he called him again today, his dad would probably be so mad at him that he'd fly into a rage and come to Chicago to straighten him out in person. That wouldn't go well. "How come you haven't made any more donations? Don't you have any money left in your account?" Kevin chided him. "You were just saying that I'm a poor jerk who had to steal a phone. Do you still think I'm poor?" Mike stared at Kevin for a long time, but he couldn't find the words to reply. If he'd known this would happen, he wouldn't have donated so much money. Now he really felt like a fool. He'd been trying to make Kevin look like a but he'd only hurt himself. Mike got so angry that he punched Kevin in the shoulder. Suddenly the class realized that Mike had just been trying to impress them all, even though he really couldn't afford it. "I can forgive you for insulting me, but do you expect to get away with hitting me?" Kevin growled as he grabbed Mike's wrist with one hand and slapped him hard on the cheek with the other. The blow knocked Mike back several feet and he fell to the floor with a thud. "Kevin, how can you do that?" Professor Murdoch shouted from the podium. "I'm sure you saw what he did, Professor. Mike struck me first and I was just defending myself," Kevin replied frankly. "Do the school regulations say that I can't fight back when I'm being bullied?" Professor Murdoch was obviously angry, but she knew that Kevin was right. When Kevin donated all of that money to the fundraiser, the professor started to change her mind about him. But after seeing him strike a fellow student, his good deeds didn't matter anymore. "Come to my office," Professor Murdoch ordered him. She seemed like she was about to lose control of herself. Kevin wondered what was going on. He could tell that she seemed a little weaker than before. He followed her into her office and stood there quietly. "Kevin, private fights are strictly prohibited here. If you dare to strike anyone again, you'll be severely punished," Professor Murdoch informed him. "Are you taking Mike's side, Professor? Didn't you see how he was bullying me?" Kevin replied casually. Then he asked her, "Are you feeling okay? You don't seem as strong today as you usually do." "What makes you say that?" she asked him as a look of panic flashed in her eyes. She hadn't spoken to anyone about how she'd been feeling. "Did you forget what I said at the dinner last night? I told you that there was something strange about the pill Mike gave you and I warned you not to take it." Kevin reminded her as he shook his head. "But you told me that you couldn't see anything wrong with it." "Are you making fun of me, Kevin?" Professor Murdoch changed the subject as she deliberately avoided talking about the pill. "Maybe I didn't get enough sleep and my body hasn't had a chance to recover yet." "You're lying to yourself, Professor. There's no need to do that with me," Kevin admonished her with a smile. "If I'm right, you'll have lost all your progress within 3 days, and you'll never be able to get it back, no matter what you try." Professor Murdoch began to panic, but quickly calmed herself and asked Kevin, "Are you trying to scare me?" From what she knew about the augmentation pill, these effects Kevin was talking about didn't make any sense. It had taken her a long time to get as far as she had in her training, and it had brought her a lot of recognition and respect. If Kevin was right, she'd lose her position in the school, along with a lot of the connections she'd made with some very powerful people. "Since you don't believe me, I don't know what else I can say," Kevin sighed. "But please remember what I said, Professor. There are only 3 days left at most. If you change your mind in the next couple of days, just give me a call. I have a way to solve your problem." Then Kevin asked if he had her permission to return to class. When he got back to the room, Merriweather avoided any eye contact with him, but Kevin didn't really care. He sat down in his seat and waited for Professor Murdoch to return. Just when he was about to take out his phone to see if the battery still had a charge, Penny suddenly turned around and put a piece of paper on Kevin's desktop. A few of the students saw this and wondered why on earth she would bother to pass a note to a like him.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.